Hello and welcome to this video for today, whether you're here for the first time or you're returning. Hope you will enjoy.
Hey there guys, how's it going? Adam here, and today we're having a bit of a special video here today, bit different from what I sort of normally do. And if you don't know what I'm actually doing here today, by clicking on the video and seeing the icon today, I'm taking you through some of my commander decks, in fact all of my commander decks actually, but not like full deck text or whatever. I am going to do that for these decks in a separate video, or separate videos at least later on down the track, especially the Squirrel Deck. I know a lot of people really like the Squirrel Deck that I've talked about a fair bit, and you know, like, it is one of my more favourite and better sort of decks that I feel like I've made. Even though it's not that good, it is one of the decks that I feel most proud of making, and one I'm really sort of happy that exists. To a sense, it is one of those decks that is like one of those decks you just cannot like get away from, in my opinion at least. And that's the thing about decks, and what I want to just say before we get too far into showing you what's in my actual decks, because like, it's interesting to see what some people actually play when they say, oh well, this is what I play, kind of, this is kind of the strategy that I go for, whatever. But you know, like, I think decks, when you get down to it, and like, this has been a problem that I've actually had a fair bit, is that, you know, when you go along and you go like, you know, I want to build a new deck, or I want to think about building a new deck, what do I think would be a cool deck to build? And sometimes you have to go through this like process of going, well, I think this might be cool, but you know, like, is it actually going to stick? You know, like, or is there enough cards in it to make it actually work? And that's like the Squirrel Deck. It's like, really, was there enough cards for it? Probably not, but, you know, like, it does work, which is just, like, crazy to me, and it does really well. Sometimes it doesn't do well all the time, but, again, it does well sometimes, surprisingly, despite it, like, lacking a lot of things that it, you know, maybe should have. And this is the thing I'm going to say specifically about the Squirrel Deck, and I suffer for my own, like, advice on this, and I might even say this again, but again, I will say it, because it is very true about the deck, and these style of decks, is because it's a tribal deck. I'm very much like, I want to be as tribal focused as possible in that deck. Now, for the most part, I say to people, don't worry about whether your deck's a tribal deck or not. Just throw cards in there that help you do what you're trying to do for the most part, rather than worrying about, oh, I don't want to put this in there because it's not a tribe member, or it doesn't directly care about my tribe, like, say, Sakura Tribe Elder or whatever, something like that, or Eternal Witness or something else, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You're much better most of the time to run cards that are, you know, decent and good and work within your colours, whatever, rather than just worrying too much. Oh, well, it isn't a dragon, but it cares about dragons. But how much does it care about dragons? Isn't there a better card it could be running, or whatever it is? You know, most of the time you're better off running decent cards or whatever, and I suffer from that reverse advice sort of on myself, because I go, well, this is my Squirrel Deck or whatever, this is my special deck, and I've gone back and forth on that. I've gone through many phases of going, I really sometimes wish I could run certain cards in that deck, because it would make the deck better, and it still would have the main theme of being Squirrel Tribal or whatever, which is what I want it to be. I don't want it to just be a, you know, token deck or whatever, because I've already got a token deck and a couple token decks. But, you know, again, it's not like I want every single strategy to be exactly the same. I want that deck to be special in its own ways. I want every deck to have its own special sort of identity, and that's the thing about, you know, us deck builders and whatnot, and we who play Commander, we want to be passionate about the decks and whatnot that we're building. You've got to start somewhere, though. You've got to try decks. You can't just go, oh, well, I won't play it because it doesn't seem that interesting. There's been a couple commanders that I've gone, well, that didn't seem that interesting initially, but then I've seen them played and played them myself and gone, Jesus, why didn't I play this before? This is such a great commander, and it, you know, gives me the things that I actually want to build around. Like, the way I built around it worked really well. And, you know, just working off a few things that I saw somebody have or whatnot just gave me that inspiration to go, wow, I could actually do that with this deck. That would be great. That is exactly what I've been looking for like months or whatever. But again, my main point is, like, you know, we all want that. We all want these decks that we have, and we go, okay, I'm going to have that deck for 10 years. I'm going to have it for 20 years. I'm going to have it for 50 years. I'm going to have it till I die, whatever. You know, this is my favorite deck. This is, if every few years I'll get another card here or there that I can add to it or whatever, you know, things like that. We all want those decks, but you've got to go through decks sometimes to go, this is a deck I actually love. This is a deck I really care about. This is a deck I can really want to keep, you know, working on and finding things and whatever. And I don't really care if there's something else out there or something, you know, like, all the time. It's like, that's the thing, like, in Magic, there's always going to be a new flavour of the month thing. But this, for me, like, again, this is why I sort of was saying, if this commander was to become like a flavour of the month commander for a lot of people, I've kind of felt like it shouldn't, because it's like, but it would be. But that's the thing, like, sometimes decks shouldn't become like, it's a flavour of the month. Everyone's building Squirrel Tribal because that suddenly came out as a real commander deck. But again, it's just one of those things. So, but anyway, guys, we'll get into the decks, and of course I'm going to start with the Squirrels. So, alright, here we go. So this actually is my deck box. I always keep the decks kind of color-coded, I guess. So the Squirrel deck is the green deck. Nice little deck for the Squirrels. Of course, I've got my amazing alt art, full art, whatever they want to call these nowadays, commander, you know. And that was another, like, aesthetic little thing, you know, like, and again, this is why, again, like I sort of say, you know, people who invest things into a deck, you know, this card, it was, you know, $20, $30, $40, $50 or more, I think, at the time. I don't know how much price he's commanding now. I don't tend to look, but again, I had to spend some serious money to get this specific art version of this card, and that's because, you know, again, I really love the art and love the style. And of course, he's kept in this very special squirrel sleeve, so that he's on flavour to his deck and whatnot. And this is one of the squirrels that was one of my more favourite squirrels, Earl of Squirrel. There he is. Very cool. I still have all the old some of the old silver border stuff sitting here too, actually, and even have that still have that art card sitting here. I'll just pull this out for no real reason, but other than to be like, yeah, I still have these little things, because that's how obsessed, like, again, I am with this deck and whatnot. You know, that's why I sort of fret over it and, you know, fiddle with it a lot, you know. Like, I'm not going to go through a super big deck tech of this deck, as I said, but just sort of some of the more major cards. I really like Kindred Dominance. You know, if it's not a squirrel, it's dead. Go away. We do not need to know about non-squirrels in our squirrel deck. Pact of the Serpent, really great card draw effect that's in our deck. We choose squirrels, of course, so we draw for squirrels. We have every squirrel that we can basically put in this deck, even Scurried Colony, not very good squirrel, but it's a squirrel. Swarmyard, of course, you regenerate the squirrels. You know, Deep Forest Hermit, one of the best cards that's actually in our deck. You know, and again, I'm a bit pedantic, so I've got to clean the cards sometimes, so sorry about that. But again, you know, really cares about squirrels, you know, gives us a whole bunch of squirrels, especially with our commander, gives us even more squirrels. This is a great card. It's not a squirrel, it's not a creature, it's not anything, but it does make lots of squirrels for us. We have lots of targets to ping our own stuff. There's even an enchantment that's in here somewhere that basically does the same thing. Whenever it's hit, it makes us a squirrel. Verdant Command, pretty good. I actually want to get the alt out of that. Mask with Nexus makes everything that we have a squirrel, and it also makes quote-unquote squirrels for us. You know, Leisure the Hallows is one of those great cards that's in our deck. We can also give other people squirrels with this card. I got Doubling Season in here. There's not that many +1/+1 counter synergies, a couple, but we mainly use it for the doubling tokens. We've got Squirrel Nest, of course. Croson Beast, one of the weirdest cards. It's not that good, but it's in here because it's a squirrel. Vanquisher's Banner, of course, Vanquisher's Banner. Cards like this for decks that, you know, you've got a tribe. Squirrel Wrangler's pretty good because we can actually get around having to sacrifice lands sometimes and whatnot. Scurry Oak, we don't have like the combo that's in here with Ivy Lane Denizen, and that's one of the cards that I was sort of referring to before, which is what I sort of said. It would probably just strictly be better to put Ivy Lane Denizen in here somewhere, but where, I don't know. Metallic Mimic, just another squirrel. It gives all of our squirrels that come in after it +1 counters, which is pretty good. Druid's Call was the enchantment that I was actually looking for. So whenever the creature's dealt damage, we make a squirrel. That's pretty good. Drykeeper, Toski, Bear of Secrets. Again, like, these are some of these are just the super art versions or the alt art versions or whatever, you know, the cow time version, whatever it is. This sketch art version. This actually, Acorn Harvest was one of the harder cards to actually find for the deck when I was building it last time, and it was actually the last card besides anything that's been printed like new that I actually found, so it was great to find that. Parallel Lives, a $60 card, you know, and Doubling Season, as I said, a very expensive card. Adaptive Automaton's really cool too. You know, again, same sort of thing as the other creature there. We basically choose squirrels, and now it buffs our squirrels. We've got a bit of removal. We've got some stuff like Icon of Ancestry. It's not that good, really, in the deck, but, you know, it fits with what we're doing, and it buffs our stuff, so that's what we want. Underworld Hermit's great as well. Squirrel Sovereign I love too. Bestiary, just fine. Overwhelming Insight, actually, the main reason this is in here is because, again, how else are we winning? We're attacking people, you know. We're going to attack people to win. Chatterstorm is a very funny card. Sometimes, actually, I had a really funny game with somebody, and I just wanted to go on this little tangent story just very quickly. That somebody had a storm count of like 20 or 30. Somehow they made me flip my own deck with a card, I can't remember now, and revealed Chatterstorm off the top, and I got 20-something squirrels off of it. So it's not just that your deck can do it, it's just like sometimes just randomly it'll happen. Nut Collector, it's such a funny and great card. Just, of course, the name is just, of course, silly, but of course he's really good. Just makes a squirrel every turn, you know. So, you know, that's another thing. Hunting Voyage, of course, you know, we'll choose squirrels, and we'll get back a whole bunch of our squirrels from our graveyard. Chitter Spitter, you know, buffs our squirrels, makes even more squirrels with a commander. Realm Walker, Pseudo Squirrel, you know, again, I actually don't like Venus Hunger in this deck, but, you know, it's in there because I need probably a couple board wipes. Beastmaster Ascension is pretty much one of the only other +1 counter synergies in the deck, but just buffs our creatures huge. Deranged Hermit's amazing, just the same sort of thing as Deep Forest Hermit. Just another Hermit, makes a whole bunch of squirrels for us, buffs our squirrels. Squirrel Mob's just in here. We've got Cavern of Souls. Another, you know, I actually pulled this out of the Zendikar, not collector's boosters, whatever they are. Well, yeah, it was from the collector's quote-unquote boosters, but I didn't actually buy collector's boosters. I bought other things to get it. But yeah, you know, so that was the other one that was there that's very expensive and very important to what we're trying to do mostly. For what this deck's all about and whatnot. So yeah, again, I'm not going through everything, but I just wanted to show you some of the cool stuff that's in here going on with this deck. And yeah, you know, as again I'll say, I want to go through a proper deck list, and I'm going to shuffle these back in because of course I don't want anyone to think I'll be cheating or whatever. Of course I'll shuffle it when I get to the table a little bit better, but I want to shuffle it now so I know I don't know where anything is, just in case. Sometimes you go through your decks and you're sort of going, oh, am I gonna, you know, again, replace a land? And again, you can see a lot of the lands that I had in there are full art, you know, lands, not foil lands, but, you know, full art lands, to say the least. So again, not that those are a hell of a lot, but they are worth a fair bit. This is the second deck that I want to quickly sort of go through. This is my Karametra deck. This is a landfall tokens deck. This is the deck that I was sort of talking about earlier. This is one of the decks that, this is the deck that I saw somebody else playing, and he just went ape shite. I'm going to be trying PG friendly as possible there, but he went absolutely bananas in the game. He had his commander. He had the Kadama of the East Tree. He had some stuff to buff his his creatures up. He had a card that said whenever a creature power 3 or greater, whatever, enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and he had Scoot Swarm. So he immediately proceeded the next turn to basically kill everyone because every turn he would play a land for turn, then he'd have a Kadama trigger. And because the tokens that he was making were 3 power, he'd also have the draw trigger. So he'd draw nearly all of his deck, be able to play every land from his hand because he'd be able to play one from the land drop, play another one from the token, play another one from the 2 tokens, play another one from the 4 tokens, and so on and so on and so on. So he drew his entire deck pretty much, found that green enchantment that basically gives all creatures on the battlefield haste, and then attacked everyone with like a bazillion Scoot Swarm tokens. And that was my introduction to the deck, and I was just so blown away and so amazed by the deck and just like, wow, why haven't I played this deck before? Because this seems like the kind of deck that I would like. So again, not going through everything. Mija, or however you say her name, she's a pretty good token generator. You know, she buffs all of our stuff as well. Like, that's the same idea. To buff our stuff plus make tokens, pretty good. Tireless Provisioner, this is a really great new card. I really love this new card. Again, this would be a card if I was in my Squirrel deck, you know, again, trying to make it more legit rather than just it's funny Squirrel Tribal or whatever. It might go in there because it's just so really good. I got the alt art, not the foil alt art, but the Secret Lair alt art of Avenger of Zendikar. I love me some Avenger of Zendikar. I love getting, you know, an absolute butt ton of plants and just like making them huge. A lot of the creatures that we have in our deck, because of our commander's ability, will search out our lands, but we still need more lands. We need lands to get to our commander, and we, you know, if we get 2 lands, we get 2 landfall triggers. So we've got a lot of things like that. We've got alternate Scoot Swarm, because Scoot Swarm's amazing. Again, like I said, it just went off. We've got lots of stuff to make tokens, like Zendikar's Recoil, or Zendikar's Royal, rather. Got Hornet Queen. Hornet Queen's really good, produces a whole bunch of flying blockers for us. Ketra actually isn't that amazing with this deck, but it's pretty darn good, actually. Whenever we get a creature, or whenever we cast a creature, we get a 4/4. The 4/4s, I'm not too keen on getting, like, power as much sometimes. Like, there is some stuff to buff stuff, but I would rather make 4 1/1s or whatever than make a 4/4. Spore Mound, pretty good. This Sarah's Emissary, oh my god. Every time that I've played this card now, it has just, like, won me the game, because I just say, okay, I'm going to choose protection from creatures. And then all my creatures and I have protection from everyone else's creatures. So my creatures are unblockable, and if that doesn't kill everyone, then I'm just going to sit here and just like, okay, cool, you can't deal me any damage by your creatures. Have fun. Combat Calligrapher is really cool too. Whenever we attack, we get a 2/1 flying inkling creature, and whenever one of our opponents just so happens to, attack one of our other opponents, we can give them inklings, which is, nice political value. Sometimes it works out. Canyon Jaboa, actually, I don't know whether this should be in here, but it's just sort of cute, and I just needed another fill card. Shalai, I'm not 100% sure it should be in here. Not 100% on theme. Like, there's a few flex cards that are in a lot of decks like these that, you just sort of fill in cards. It does give us hexproof, protects our creatures, buffs our creatures if we have excess mana, so that's pretty good. Loyal Guardian, we're going to have our commander, because our commander's indestructible. It's hard to get rid of because it's an enchantment half the time, so it's really hard to get rid of. This isn't as hard to get rid of, but its body is so relevant. It has trample, it gets bigger, it gives everything else getting bigger. Cathar's Crusade, we can just go off again, like we can make a token, we get counters on everything, we can then get another creature, get counters, and there's that ooze card that actually, when it however many +1 counters you put on a creature or on creatures this turn, you get that many 1/1s. So when you go to your end step, basically, you get, well, let's say you made 5 +1 counters. Just say for that. Like, that's a very low number, really. Then you get 5 1/1s. But then, because you're having 5 1/1s enter, they all become 6 6s. With Cathar's Crusade putting a +1/+1 counter on each of them. So it just gets really insane really quickly. Ancient Green Warden, a really great card. We don't really care about playing lands from our graveyard, though that's okay. It's a nice little upside. Everyone forgets this thing has reach all the time. Literally all the time. No one knows that it has reach. But, just like the Panharmonicon style of effect that it does, doubling up our land triggers is just like what we want it for. Of course, we've got Field of the Dead in here. Field of the Dead's amazingly good. Ashire is really, really good as well. Making all of our creatures into lands as well is really good, because then when we play a creature, we're also playing a land. So that triggers all of our landfall stuff, which is really good. This deck is very heavy on lands because it has to be. We've got a few big finishers like Endray's Forerunners and the Angel that I just showed you. What other cool cards do I have in here? I've got Emil the Blessed, actually. Emil the Blessed is actually pretty darn good. Even if, the whole, it comes down late and doesn't really seem to do much, the whole fact that we can hold up 3 mana and just, like, flicker anything, protect it from whatever we need to, and then when it comes back in, it gets an extra +1/+1 counter. We don't have any other unicorns, but that's fine. Actually, Emeria Angel's just amazingly good. The flyers are very good because they're evasive. Felidar Retreat's really good because you have the option of getting the cat, or you get the +1/+1 and vigilance. Yeah, Kadama, there's Kadama. Just to go silly and whatnot and do all kinds of shenanigans. So that's this deck that I've got. Again, I'll do the same thing. Whatever. But yeah, this is another deck that I've fallen more and more in love with, and I think is a really cool deck, But we'll move on. We've got a couple more decks to go. and I don't want to spend too much time, you know, doing this, but I do want to show you guys, you know, if you're interested, you know, what decks I actually have and what I actually play and whatnot. Actually, I've got a new deck that I want to show you guys, but I'll show you guys my older or more established deck that I've got here first before that last one. So this is my second last deck. Adrix and Nev. I don't know whether Adrix and Nev should be the commander still. I've got Volo, and I don't know whether Volo should be the commander of this deck. Again, the color coding. This one's blue. The deck's blue. It's got blue in the card, so and the sleeves are even blue. Like, you know, like that's how I sort of like to do these things, because again, it's, you know, again, the first deck, or the second deck rather, you know, like the sleeves are sort of reminiscent of the you know, of the deck box. So, you know, it sort of all fits together and all becomes nice and, you know, succinct and whatnots. But anyway, it's a nice little deck. Again, this is another deck that I've built fairly recently. I haven't even, like, again, this is all my lands here, because I haven't even finished building it completely. I think there's one card in here that I was going to take out, but yeah, these are all the non-land cards for the most part, I think, over here. Okay, there's all the lands. Alright, there we go. So again, Ancient Green Warden, we've got a lot of the same landfall stuff, like Spore Mound. We've got Master Biomancer, which buffs all our stuff up when they enter after him. So that's pretty good. Curiosity Crafter draws us cards when we hit people. With our tokens, we're going to have lots of tokens in this deck. Again, Hornet Queen, you know, a bunch of stuff, you know, that we love to have, like Avenger, Tireless Provisioner, just all this sort of stapley stuff, or Phosphang, Interface Forerunners, Tolsky, Coma. Coma's amazing in this deck. The 3/3s every single turn is just going to mean that we will kill people very, very quickly. Kadama, again, to do Kadama-y things. Just Essex Flactal Broom. I don't know about this card. It's kind of cool, though, whenever you can make a token of something that, you know, but it is only on your turn. But again, it's just still, like, very cool when you make different things. Every time we make a token with this, we're just, like, going crazy. So, you know, Progenitor Mimic is really cool. Zendikar's Royal again. Ashaya, same thing again. Like, this is a very similar deck. We've got some clones, though. Ethereum Shapter was actually the card I was thinking about taking out. Sakashima's really good. The other Sakashima's really good. Again, we like to clone things, and I don't want to worry about the legendary rule. That's my thing. I always don't want to worry about the legendary rule. There's Volo there. There he is. So yeah, but again, like, very similar sort of deck. This is more about copying, I guess, sort of thing, but, you know, it is a very similar sort of, in theory, deck. You're doing a lot of similar-ish sort of stuff, but again, this is more about, like, cloning, I guess, or copying, rather than making tokens more directly, where the other deck is more like, it's trying to create tokens more directly. This makes more, like, clone tokens, I guess, or copy tokens, I guess, is the way to think about what I mean by that. And as I said, I haven't actually finished this deck. I haven't even shuffled it up, because I was working on it the other day and just putting a couple extra cards in. I'll shuffle it a lot better when I get into play, but I want to shuffle it somewhat now because I do want to play it now that I've actually put those cards in there. I don't like playing very much with proxies. I let other people play with proxies, and sometimes I'll play with proxies if I have to or whatnot, but again, for the most part, I don't want to. I want to play with real cards. So that also gets, you know, difficult because you have to find the cards or you have to get the money for cards. Alright, this is the last one. last one for now, at least. This is the new deck that I've been brewing very recently. Again, this one's probably not shuffled, and yep, we don't even have our lands in the deck at the moment, so we'll just take those out and remove them from the pile. But, you know, Wolfgar, he's pretty cool. I've seen a few people want to build around with him. I've got a friend who wants to build around with him. I actually might just send him a deck tech. But this is a completely, like, different deck, which is all about, like, attack triggers and whatnot, and doubling up attack triggers. Again, this is another, like, value deck or whatever, so it's the same idea in a sense, where you're trying to get value out of your cards and whatnot, and trying to do the most effective things possible that you can sort of do. The Tarask, he's big, he's bad, he fights 2 things when we attack for the most part. Bog Beast, you know, gains us 4 life, gives our creatures +4/+4, that isn't too bad. Lair, I'm actually thinking about taking out. Gargaroth's amazing. Morug's amazing as well. We don't even have to play another land on our turn to really get him going, because he already gives our creatures +2 on the first attack. These are our proxies at the moment. Patron of Akiri is also kind of a proxy. I just needed another card to fill the deck up with. But Hero of Oxid Ridge, or however you say it, pretty good, giving our creatures +2/+0. And whenever he attacks, creatures with power 1 or less can't block, so that's fine. Nakata War Pride just makes double the number of attacking creatures that they have blockers when we have a commander, which is amazing. You know, giving +4 to our squad when he attacks is pretty darn good. So he's there. Got decent removal like Blasphemous Act as well. Colonial Hydra just like gives everything 2 +1/+1 counters when it attacks, so that's really good. There's a few +1 counter synergies here that we have. Cultivator of Blades, you know, buffs our creatures double what its power is, so it can give our creatures +6/+6 when it attacks. Goldspan Dragon's okay in this deck, but it's pretty cool in this deck. It doesn't really do that much. I might take it out, I don't know. I just so happen to have it, and again, it's another spot filler to a degree. Rubble Belt Riders, much like Colonial Hydra, just gives our team +1/+1 counters, which is good. Goreclaw, giving our creatures +2 and trample is really good. Even the +1 trample is pretty good. I don't like Tectonic Giant that much, but again, this is still a deck that I'm fiddling with. Embereth, you know, we can pay 3 twice to give our creatures +6, or yeah, +6/+6, which is pretty darn good. This one I'm not super like crazy about, Goblin Trumpeter, but you know, when he attacks, we get, you know, 1 to 3 goblins, or 1 to 6 goblins actually. So that's pretty darn good, and they all tap it and attacking, so that's pretty good too. Cranko, like I said, there's some +1 counter synergy here. He gets 2 counters, makes 2 goblins straight away. If there's anything else out that gives him more counters, he gets even bigger, like Oran Reef Ooze. You can sort of, you know, buff him up even more, things like that. Especially when he's already got counters on him. Or you can just put counters on him with Oran Reef Ooze. Things like that, make him even bigger, make him do more stuff. Just some more classic stuff like Tireless Provisioner, Eternal Witness, Jessica's Will, Valkyrie Awakening, just generically good things there. Werewolf Pack Leader. This is a new card from the D&D set. There's very little D&D stuff that I actually picked up and was very interested in, but this was one of the cards. Just draws us cards when we attack with 6 power or greater, so draws us 2 cards essentially. Battlecry Goblin, you know, makes more goblins, you know, when we've attacked with 6 power or greater. Tugnar gives us more power when we attack, so we want things like that to, you you know, close out the game and kill off our opponents. But, you know, that's pretty much it for this deck. Again, I'm still fiddling with it a bit and whatnot, so some of these cards might not be in here like these ones, but again, for the most part, this is just like the beginnings of the deck. This is going to be my first round of like play testing with it and whatnot, but I already really like the idea of it and like the way it's sort of going and, you know, whatnot. I just want to see how it plays and how it feels, and I might, you know, go back and sort of go along and kind of go, yeah, this is actually, you know, not that bad when it's out or whatnot again, because sometimes you sort of look at something and you go, no, I don't know whether that's going to be that good. But this is like the latest deck that I've built, and I've only started building it since the D&D set came out, so it's going to be, you know, some works for a while. You know, like I've been building the other decks for quite a while, and even though the green-blue deck, Simic deck that I had, I was still working on some cards in that, because I was just like, oh, I haven't put this card in there, I haven't put that card in there, this card would be actually really good in this deck. And whatnot, things like that. But yeah, like those are my decks currently that I own, and yeah, I've only got 4 of them. You know, one of the things about having lots of decks or whatever is you've actually got to find time to play them. I had a lot of decks before, and I've built a lot of decks, so it's one of those things where you've got to weigh up like the value of having just decks that exist. And like, again, like I'll show you guys here if I can very quickly that if I can, that is, I have to take this out. Oh, there we go. Is that I've got all these cards, and I think maybe you've seen them all here one time or another and whatnot, that are just sitting here and not really doing much, but I'm keeping them because I might build decks with them and whatnot. So I keep those cards there for the purposes of potentially building more decks and whatnot. I might not build more decks because, again, it becomes like, well, when do I get the time and the place and whatnot to play them all, you know? And, you know, it is a hobby, and you only get so much time in the day or in the week or in the month or whatever in the year to play those decks. So if you have 30 or 40 decks, yeah, sure, you've got huge variety of decks to play and to be like, oh, cool, I haven't played this deck in a while, but you still have that variety when you have like 3 or 4, maybe 5, because you will find time that it's like, well, I haven't played this one in a while, but I actually just haven't played in a while because, again, there's always other things going on in life and whatnot, so you've always got to be, you know, adaptable to what you can actually, like, afford your time to. You can't be like, oh, well, I'm just gonna, you know, sit here for, you know, the next, you know, the next lifetime just playing with my decks. But, you know, when you get that chance to go out and go, oh, okay, cool, I finally get, you know, Tuesday off or Friday off or whatever day off, and I can go out and go down to my game store and get some games and whatnot. Again, that's all most people really want and care about. You know, again, they want their decks. And this is the thing, like I've said this before, where, you know, again, I don't build decks to worry too much about what my opponents are doing. Yeah, sure, I pack removal and some answers, but again, I'm not there to ruin someone's day. I'm there to play the game and try to win as best as I can. But again, I'm not there to be like, you know, again, this is not going to be fun for you guys. It's only going to be fun for me, time or whatnot. I want my friends to have as much fun as what I'm having playing against my deck or whatnot, and I want to have fun playing against their deck. So that's a whole thing that I think about every time I build the deck, to be like, this is fun for other people, and people will go, holy crap, that deck is sweet, dude, you know, or whatever. I really like that, or it's really flavorful, or you make it really fun to play against because you're engaging me in the game. You're engaging me in what's going on. You're engaging me with the story, or you're doing all this stuff like that's what I had with that political deck that I had a while back, or whatever, the political combat deck that I had a while back. It was really fun in a way. It didn't really have enough cards for it, but again, it was like, okay, I'll give you stuff if you don't attack me. As long as you attack my opponents, you will get free things. So that was an interesting deck too. And the thing is, you almost have to get people to attack in that deck. But again, it's just one of those cool deck ideas that I sort of came up with. Like, again, I come up with cool deck ideas here and there, or at least I think they're cool deck ideas anyway, all the time. And it's just like, well, again, do I have the time? Do I have a deck that I'm not super in love with, or maybe I could get rid of? I don't like to get rid of decks, but it does happen, and you do go through those things and going, well, I tried this deck, and again, sometimes you spend that money on those decks and go, oh, well, actually it wasn't for me and whatnot. But that is how it is, so anyway, guys, that has been pretty much it for this one. But let me know what you guys think. Write your thoughts down there in the comments below, and I'll be sure to bring you some proper, like, full-on deck techs in the future of those decks.
If you would like to further support the channel, you can go onto our Patreon. You can also get social with us on our Facebook. To follow all the updates, make sure you hit the like button, and on our Discord. To get into it, please leave a comment and I'll send you an invite. All links are in the description. I hope you have enjoyed this video here today, and if you have, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing, and I hope you will come back for another one. See you then.